believe that this is the greatest time in the history of humanity to pick a problem, a really big problem, and go solve it. And I believe absolutely anyone can do that. I am the first generation of women that is able to be in this position that I'm in right now. First generation, didn't come from a wealthy family. I didn't even go to a business school. I didn't even know what VC funding was when we started this company. The game that we're playing was not built for people like me. But for the first time in the history of humanity, I get to play in this game.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Kavitta Ghai, who is the co-founder and CEO at Nectir. Kavitta, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this with you.
I'm excited to have this conversation as well. I think it's always cool to see businesses that are kind of changing the space. And so for everybody that's listening right now, give them a little bit of context into who you are, what Nectar is all about, who you guys help, and any further context that you want to share about the business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I usually like to start at the very beginning of, how did this even come about? Yeah. So Nectar was co-founded by me and my co-founder Jordan 7 years ago now. Actually, on the 18th of this month, it'll be exactly 7 years. And we started it when we were undergrad students at UC Santa Barbara. So for us, it was really born out of the frustration that we had with the classroom. And we just couldn't understand why we were paying so much for an education that, frankly, it felt like we could go get on Google or YouTube ourselves. And for me personally, I'm autistic and I have ADHD. So no classroom that I've ever been in before has felt like it was built for me or my brain to thrive in. And then I got to college and I started paying $40,000 to be really, really uncomfortable. And that's finally when it became enough of a pain point for me that I said, either I'm going to drop out or I'm going to do something about it. And at the time, my co-founder and I asked ourselves, what is the biggest problem that we're trying to solve here? What is the thing that just sticks out to us as this doesn't make sense and someone should have fixed this already? And it was understanding that 1 out of every 3 freshmen drops out before their sophomore year in the US. And for us having almost a 50% dropout rate in this country that is supposed to be leading the world in resources and education, that just didn't make any sense to me. And it felt like there's got to be something that we can do. We see every other industry that is modernized and optimized by technology, and then somehow education is the last to adopt it. And yet we're the ones who are supposed to be preparing the next generation for this modern technology and this workforce. And if you ask any student right now in college in the US, I don't think that's happening. And so the sort of evolution of Nectar, it's gone through a lot of different phases of how do we best solve this problem. And with the rise of AI, it's really given us the ability to finally provide this 24/7 personalized learning support to every single student, because I truly believe that no education should be one size fits all. It should be completely personalized and novel for every single student that enters a class. And we don't want to put that burden on the teacher, right? They've been teaching some of these courses for a decade and they have incredible expertise. Yeah. And so we want them to be able to be curiosity facilitators in the classroom during that really precious lecture time that they have. But we want students to also be able to understand that you can learn what is most valuable to you in each course, and to also now have AI as this guiding partner to help you figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses, areas of opportunity, what potential careers would be best suited for you. And then how do we apply that to the classroom itself? So what we've created with Nectar AI, you can think of as basically AI infrastructure purpose built for higher ed. So we help schools adopt basically any LLM on the market, like GPT-4o or Claude Sonnet 3.5. And then they're able to train it with their own proprietary data, like their, syllabus, textbooks, assignments, lecture notes, and create these custom AI assistants or agents. So typically we'll go in and see schools start with creating, an AI course assistant or an AI tutor for every class. And then quickly, because of the way that we've built this to scale across the campus, they're creating internal AI assistants that are just for the staff and faculty to use, or a FAFSA advisor that's trained on all the financial aid documents and the entire campus can use that one. So it's really figuring out where are all of the areas that not just students, but teachers, staff, and admin also need support. And then being this sort of infrastructure that fits across the entire campus and specifically allows them to use any LLM on the market in a FERPA compliant way. And that's really the key piece here, is that we are compliant with all of the data safety protocols so that they legally can adopt it campus wide. And then on top of that, we integrate directly with the LMS. And so it eliminates that issue of how do you scale to a campus of, 20, 30,000 people,
Yeah.
plug it into the LMS. It automatically reads which students are supposed to be assigned to which assistants for that class, automatically puts it right inside of the LMS itself. So they're not going out to a separate tool. So it is being able to integrate AI exactly where you already are.
Yeah, it just becomes so easy. And thank you for sharing all that. I find it so interesting as well, because one of the questions I was going to ask is like, it sounds like of course, there's a lot going on the back end. Of course, that gets handled by, as you said, by your co-founder a lot.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the students getting a personalized education, and then I was going to ask you, so is it I guess you guys are partnering with the school, but the end user is the student, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's the school as well. It's the staff and how they can benefit from the intricacies and the systems that you guys put in place to, I guess, supplement the entirety of the higher ed institution, as opposed to just the students or just the staff or just, I guess, different departments out there. Does that sound about right?
Exactly. Totally.
Awesome.
Because we believe that everyone can benefit from AI. We're all using it in our daily lives, and we want to find a way for schools to be able to use this, especially when you look at certain stats. Like in the US right now, we have a 300,000 teacher deficit. There are just 300,000 spots that are not getting filled. And so we know it's really hard to get more help onto these campuses. And on top of that, we're seeing about one campus per week shut down in the US or be on the verge of shutting down. And so when you're trying to figure out how do we help schools that really can't afford to procure these new technologies, but need to procure AI in order to stay ahead, you've got to find a way to bring it into the campus in a way that meets them where they are and solve these immediate, really critical needs that they have.
Yeah.
If it's just a point solution or a nice to have, it's going to sit on the shelf, or it's not even going to be able to get into the line item on the budget. So you've really got to figure out, how do I satisfy the admin, who's the buyer, the gatekeeper, who is the teacher, and then the end user, who is the student. And I think that's what makes EdTech such a difficult market to break into and really find success in. But we found that that's sort of the magic recipe.
Yeah, it's awesome that you bring that up, because it is such a quote unquote difficult space. And I've had to over 200 conversations now, which kind of saying it out loud seems crazy. But it's always a pattern that it gets repeated in so many conversations. Like, how do I build this relationship? How do I build this trust? But especially for higher education, because they're kind of like held back in time. They're like kind of like the dinosaurs of the industry. Like, hey, you've always just done it this way for however many 100 years, and it's like, why should we change? And it's like, here's why you should change, because AI is revolutionizing everything. And you will probably be part of the ones that are shutting down. Totally. Have you found that there's huge hesitancy from them to not even adopt AI, but adopting systems that can implement AI the right way, just because of the way that they've always done things?
It's a really good question. And what's actually been, I think, the most surprising to me in building Nectar AI and deploying it is to see how quickly schools are willing to adopt this. It is the fastest I've ever seen the sales cycles go, and the most open to new change in technology that schools have ever been. It's pretty amazing. I mean, right now, for the last...
When you're saying fastest, what's fast to you?
I mean, the fastest we've ever gone is from a 2-class pilot to a campus-wide deployment in 6 weeks. And so basically schools are doing a pilot, and this is pretty standard across the board. We're seeing schools do a pilot for one term. And so they'll pick, some, 5% of the campus maybe to pilot and test it out with. And then immediately after that first term, they want to do it campus-wide. And I have never seen the transformation happen that quickly, where everyone is ready. They're like, yep, we love it. Let's do it. Let's go. And even the teachers being now at a point where they understand, I do have to make sure that my students are AI literate. I myself need to be AI literate. It's better for me to have these technologies in the classroom than to, students are going to go to ChatGPT anyways. I might as well give them the better version of that. It's ChatGPT that's trained on all of your class documents, so it's actually giving you the right answers and it's not hallucinating. And so teachers are feeling a lot more comfortable having visibility and access to setting the boundaries through the prompt. And so I think what's happening is people at schools are realizing this is the best way for us to adopt this technology, and we don't really have a choice either. it's here to stay and it's just going to keep growing. And so students deserve to leave college prepared for this now AI powered workforce. And so it's translating to us seeing sales cycles move incredibly fast. And the best proof point of that is for the last 9-10 months since we launched Nectar AI on May 1st of last year, 90+% of our pipeline has been inbound.
Oh, wow.
It's been incredible. So the schools are coming to us. We're not doing cold outreach. We're not doing any sort of paid marketing. They're authentically coming and finding us. I think a big part of it is the word of mouth of the schools that already are using it and love it. But it's really showing us schools are ready for this technology. They're asking for it. They want it. They're thinking about it. It's a line item in the budget already. And that transformation has never happened this quickly.
Yeah, that is interesting. I can for sure tell you that I'm surprised to hear the 6 weeks because the answer that I always get is 6 to 9 months, usually
Exactly.
as a year side.
Totally.
So
100%.
it's like something so refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You mentioned that a lot of it is coming from inbound, and of course, if you do a good job, people are always going to tell more people that they like about it as well, and that always compounds. Does that mean that you guys are you're not doing anything else? So no outbound, no other paid traffic, nothing digital. It's just everything coming through. And is that because you guys are opposed to those things, or this is just working well, so you're kind of just riding that wave?
Honestly, it's just working so well that we never really had to go that route. I mean, what's been happening for us and kind of the philosophy behind how we grow the company is we really want people to understand who we are and why we're building this technology. I think it's really important for any modern consumer to understand who built this thing that you're buying and why did they build it and who are you giving your money to.
Yeah.
And I think especially when it comes to education, it's very relationship based sales. And so they want to know, okay, this company is going to stick around. They've been around for long enough. They, have another funding round coming up. This isn't something that's a startup that's just going to go away. And they also want to understand, has there been research behind this, which we've had multiple research studies published on Nectar AI. And so the stuff that really matters to them is the stuff that we focus on sharing on our LinkedIn, our social media, podcasts like this, conferences and panels that I'll go speak on. And so sharing the story with the world and how Nectar AI has transformed schools already, that is what has been creating this insane inbound pipeline and keeps it going and allows us, me particularly, to really just do what I love most, which is go share the story, talk about it. And the people who really understand why we're building this, they're coming and finding us.
Awesome. It's always amazing to hear when you find yourself in that situation where the word of mouth is that compounding factor, because I have found that so many companies that I speak with, they rely on the word of mouth, but not in the positive sense of like, hey, everything is just like so easy for us. But it's more so like, hey, if people like, we don't know what's happening next month because we're reliant on this thing as opposed to the other possible structures to create opportunities. So it's great to hear that refreshing opposite end of that same coin. But I'd love to hear from you, Kavitta. You mentioned 7-year anniversary, so congratulations there.
Thank you.
I'm assuming it hasn't just been rainbows and sunshines the entire. So
Definitely not.
yeah. So as the company was kind of in its starting phases, talk to me about some of the biggest challenges that you guys were facing, things that you were going through, some of the lessons that you've got from those experiences, but how they differ from the challenges that you guys currently face right now.
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we started Nectar, at the time, obviously there was no ChatGPT, there was none of these we were so far away from this AI stuff happening, and you could have never imagined that this was going to be the case. And so back then we said, how do we solve this issue of providing students with 24/7 support? Right? We know that it's taking like 2 days to get a question answered over email, or you have to walk into office hours. And on top of that, there's no personalization. It's not, it's just very difficult, especially for students like myself who are first generation learning disabilities, to come into this campus of 26,000 people and figure out how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And so I had actually, the way that this whole thing started was I had a professor who used Slack in one of my classes. And it was the summer between my sophomore and junior year. And he was a grad student instructor, Spencer. And Spencer said, we're going to do things a little bit differently. I know that you guys are waiting 2 days to get a response over email from me or the TA. I know that you guys are too shy to raise your hand in class and ask questions. And I want to create a community around this class and the material. Cheating isn't a thing, basically. He said, I want you guys to help each other because that's how it works in the real world. You're going to go into the workforce and you're going to have to ask the right questions to the people around you to get the job done. And so we're going to start practicing that here. And so he said, you're going to ask and answer each other's questions 24/7 in the Slack space. I know you guys are up at 2 in the morning, so answer someone else's question when you're up.
Might as well use it usefully.
Exactly, right? And that way you know someone's always there to help you or at least is up at that time studying with you. And he said, if you answer someone's question really well, I'll give you extra credit for it because that lets me know that you understand the material deeply enough that you can turn around and teach it to the person next to you. And that is actually mastery of a topic. And so he said, trust me on this. This is going to work. And it did. It was incredible. I got the highest grade that I got in college in that class. I walked away with more friends than I had ever made in a class before. I'm still friends with those people today. And I was like a dog with a bone. I was like, that is it. Put Slack in all of our classes and it would solve the problem. And so I approached UCSB not thinking of starting a company. I just wanted to know if me and 26,000 other people are paying you $40,000, why can't you put Slack in all of our classes? Yeah. Because I just saw it and it worked. That was amazing. Mm-hmm. And the instructional design department at UCSB very kindly took the time to sit me down and walk me through the logistical hell of putting a separate Slack workspace in 1,500 classes every quarter, teaching professors who are on average 55 how to use this enterprise tool that they probably haven't used before. Yeah. And then on top of that, paying an enterprise cost for 26,000 plus people on a campus. Mm-hmm. They basically said, it sounds good in theory. Maybe you have a couple instructors use the free version the way that you saw, but this is never going to work across a campus because it's not built for education. Yeah. And that was the sort of spark moment where I could have either walked away and been like, okay, whatever, I tried. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I only have 2 years left. Like, I'll just get through it. Yeah. Or do what we actually did, which my co-founder and I said, what if we built Slack for schools? Mm-hmm. What if we did build all of the things that you needed to be able to scale this across 26,000 people? What if it integrated with the LMS? What if it was auto onboarded for students every term when a new class started? What if this actually was built for what you need? Tell us exactly what that is and we'll build that. And so we spent the next 2 years that we were in school building exactly what UCSB's sort of dream Slack for schools tool looked like. And then we were just taking our sweet time building it. We weren't planning on raising VC funding anytime soon. Yeah. And about a couple months out of college, it was February of 2020. And UCSB approached us and said, hey, I know you guys have been building this with us. We had maybe about 5,000 students on campus who were using it at that point. Mm-hmm. And we were still doing R&D, just asking professors, like, what else can we do to make this better? Yeah. And UCSB said, in a week, our entire campus is going to go remote. And we need some way to take the entire campus online indefinitely. Can you guys be the ones to do that for us? And my co-founder and I looked at each other and we knew we didn't have what it took to do it. We had never done anything like that at that scale before, and there was no one else on the team. It was just us. Mm-hmm. But you don't say no to your first customer. Yeah. And you don't say no to UCSB when they're your first customer. Mm-hmm. So we said, yep, we'll figure it out. We'll do it. And a week later, 20,000 students got onto Nectar AI, or Nectar Chat at the time was what it was called, overnight. And the whole thing crashed and burned. It was like our servers were literally melting on fire. It was terrible for the first week. We were getting like death threats from students being like, I have no way to communicate with people on campus and you're taking this away from me. Oh, wow. But in hindsight, what an amazing piece of feedback that immediately this was so useful to them that if we took it away from them, they hated us for it. So that was a really tough first week and first customer to have, but such an amazing experience to be able to understand how to do the implementation and onboarding correctly. And what I now know is that is the most key part of any EdTech company or any EdTech business is it's not the technology that you build. And it's also not whether you can get the sale. It's, do you know how to implement this and onboard the campus correctly such that everybody actually is able to use it and access it? And you have that network effect that turns on all at once, because that's where you get it really sticky. And that's where it becomes this household name across the campus. And that's when schools go and talk about you to other schools because they always have the biggest issue with implementation and onboarding. And so if you're able to solve that piece really, really well for them, that's why you stand out.
That's amazing. I love how you went through the full story there to get to that point. That's so awesome. And I want to just highlight how important uh it is that you're bringing up the implementation and the onboarding, because it's the implementation and the onboarding that facilitates the immersion of the students on the back end, or whoever, like the users, the students, the staff. But I think, so as you said, so many companies care about the technology itself. They care, or the product, or
Mm-hmm.
making the sale, or whatever it might be. But then they forget that if you're not able to bring that internally to whoever you're working with in an efficient way that allows people to immerse in it deeply in how it's supposed to be done, then nothing else matters.
Exactly.
Then nothing else matters. That's so
It
interesting about
doesn't.
that. So I just wanted to highlight that you brought that up as well. So awesome.
Totally.
Was there other oh, that's so funny. Like in a week, people come through, 20,000 people are like, oh, how do we, boy's never gonna say yes to that. Is there, but that sounds like the biggest like, oh snap, we got to sort of stuff out moment for you guys.
Yeah.
How about now? Like how's that initial challenge? And of course, I'm sure many came along the way of building and progressing and optimizing. How's that different from what you guys face now? What are some of the challenges that come through as you're still looking to keep the business growing and growing?
Yeah. Great question. The challenge now has really evolved into us basically being at the front lines of delivering AI literacy to the country. Because what I'm sort of most worried about right now is the fact that the people who are in our space, not ed tech necessarily, but in the AI space, building these technologies, it's sort of a bubble for us. Like we're building all these cool technologies and it's amazing. And we're trying out all these new, image generators, all these new tools that come out, it feels like every hour. And they're incredible. But outside of this bubble of people building and using AI, the majority of the world is not using these technologies and they're not used to it. And they're also not sure how to safely utilize these technologies, what it means that they hallucinate, when you should be double checking the citations in your work. We have a responsibility to deliver AI literacy first before we introduce to the entire world all of these insane technologies. And especially within education, I think that this is one of the most critical things, and why schools are moving so quickly to adopt AI is that they know our entire society is hinged on whether this next generation is prepared to use AI, not just in the workforce, but in the world. If AI falls into the hands of bad actors, a lot of things can go really wrong. And that's the stuff that we've heard in movies for decades and the stuff that we're all really scared about right now. And I think the best way to prevent that from happening is to make sure that, like I said, the students that are in school right now that are going to be building the future very, very soon, they get AI literacy right now first before they go out and use these tools in the real world so that they know exactly how to and how not to use these. And so that becomes the most critical part of the work that we do is not just how do we build this tool and implement and onboard it, but how do we deliver AI literacy at scale alongside the implementation and onboarding? And not just for the students, but for the staff, the admin, the faculty, everyone on campus is sort of starting at the same point. And you need to understand, what does it mean when I'm training the LLMs on all these documents? Specifically, little things like, okay, Nectar is FERPA compliant. Great. So it's not sharing your information back with the LLM provider. But if you go use ChatGPT, it is. So probably don't go upload sensitive company documents there or your own sensitive documents there. Things like that we have not actually trained the world on yet. We've just sort of released these technologies into the wild and been like, great, let's see what happens. And that to me feels really dangerous. So I see that as a really big part of our responsibility at Nectar.
It sounds like a lot of, because on one side of things, you guys are of course clearly doing a great job. So there's people coming to you, but it also at the same time, despite that, it sounds like and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like I don't know if lack of awareness is the right word, but I'll just use that, and it'll make sense. There's like maybe possibly a lack of awareness on what you guys, the tools and the facilitations that you guys are providing, but also it's like educating these institutions on the importance of the value that you're bringing. So it's not just, hey, this is great for you, but here's all the iceberg things that you can't see right now that I need to educate you on why it's important and the value that it brings and the actual and why it makes it worth it, as opposed to any other AI tools that are out there.
Yeah.
Am I totally incorrect in saying that or no?
No, you're absolutely right. And what I would add to that is just saying that part of our responsibility at Nectar in delivering that AI literacy is also figuring out when to scale the tool appropriately. So there's an insane product roadmap of really cool stuff that we would love to build. But we know that schools and students aren't ready for those pieces of technology yet. And so we have to go meet them where they are, deliver these, like an AI course assistant. It's something that you can really wrap your mind around very easily, what kinds of questions you're supposed to ask to it, how to utilize it properly. But that's exactly why we started with that, because it's something that's digestible for the student, for the teacher, for the campus. When I look at some of these other AI tools that are on the market, I think they fall into two problems. Either one, they become a point solution. So you're kind of just offering one niche service that is useful and it's cool. But you have to understand schools do not have budget right now. They can barely afford the tools that they already have, let alone adopting new AI technologies that are far more expensive than what they're used to. So they have to be very careful of how much AI technology they adopt because it's expensive. So point solutions, I don't think will have the staying power. And the other problem that I think a lot of tools fall into is overbuilding from the start, sort of over optimizing, creating these insane AI platforms that sound so cool, but do students and teachers really have the AI literacy to use them properly? Probably not. And the more built out the tool is, the less usage you actually get, because what we're doing is basically starting with these AI assistants and agents. And slowly, as schools and students get comfortable with it, we'll keep introducing new features and it will get built out over the years. Exactly. But when you start with this insane feature set, like let's think about the LMS, for example. How many students have actually gone and clicked through all of the different pages and resources on the LMS? Zero. Yes. Literally zero. Like there are just so many bells and whistles inside of it. No one is ever going to get to all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's why everyone hates the LMS so much, is because it just has all what feels like this extra weight that you're like, I don't even know what is in that page or what's there, but I don't feel like clicking on it. I don't want to go look at it. It's overwhelming to the brain, to the eyes, to the soul. And so we have to be very careful in how we create this technology. And the way that we do that is every single thing that we build is in partnership with the students, the teachers, the schools that we work with. So we host these monthly feedback sessions where all of these folks come in and tell us, this is what I love, this is what I hate, this is what my students just could not figure out. And then it's on us to go figure out how to make that more digestible. Either, we need to go provide some more AI literacy around that thing. So we need to build some more resources, do some workshops, do some training on that. Or they're telling us, I need deeper insights into how my students are conversating with AI. So then that's on us to go build key topics into the analytics dashboard. So it's really being very, like, sort of having your ear to the ground at all times and being really close to the users and figuring out what are they comfortable with and what do they need next.
For sure. And in a way, it reinforces the trust factor in the relationship that you guys have with each other, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, we're not just here to feed you this thing and good luck, fingers crossed. Exactly. It's like, hey, please give me more feedback. How can I improve this? How can I further assist you? It's like, I don't know how this is. I only heard about this term recently, but someone was like really just giving them that white glove treatment. Maybe it could be I'm an immigrant and I've never heard that before. But anyways, that's another story. But that white glove treatment of like, hey, here's the amazing thing that you actually that I want to provide for you because I value our relationship. Builds trust, builds credibility, makes them like you more, makes them tell more people about it, makes your business grow. So it's like, hey, that's a whole circle thing, right? Which is amazing.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I have a couple final questions here for you, Kavitta. One is a question that I've been asking everybody on the podcast. So it's kind of become a frame of it, and you will also be a victim of it. So we'll start with that one, and then we'll go on to my last question.
Gotcha.
Which, here's the question. Let's say you had a magic wand an amazing magic wand, and you could just wave this wand, and it could solve just one thing in the business, a challenge, an obstacle, whatever it might be. And by solving this one thing, you will achieve your growth goals just like that. What's the one thing, even though there are often many, one thing that you'd like to solve in the business?
Oh, that is a great question. I I think the biggest thing that we struggle with and that I would love to solve is finding the right talent for this stage.
Hmm.
When you are early startup, under 30 people, I'd say, the kinds of people that you hire, the first 30 people, are going to look entirely different than the next 30 and the next 30 after that. And the people that we're looking for at this stage, our team is about 14 people right now. Every single person that I hire, I'm basically looking to see, could you be a founder of your own startup? Is that the kind of personality that you have? Because I need someone who is able to see the future 5 years from now and build towards that. And at the same time, someone who is extremely high agency, someone who, most importantly, has a very deep personal connection to the mission, because otherwise, this is a really, really hard space to be in if you don't actually care about education. And lastly, on top of all of that, is finding someone who is willing to adopt this technology as fast as it's coming out. So
Hmm.
every single person on our team, whether you're on the engineering or sales or community, it doesn't matter what department you're in, you've kind of got to be an AI expert. You've got to be in tune with, here's all the new technologies that just came out this week. This is the implication that it has on our business and our product. This is how I'm going to talk about it with our users and our customers. And that combination of all of those things that we're looking for in this,
Hmm.
very early AI startup,
Yeah.
especially in education, that is really, really hard to find. I
Okay.
mean, we get so many people every day who want to come work at Nectar and want a job here, and I'm flattered. I love hearing it. But to find someone who has the cross section of all of those things, I'm basically looking for a former teacher who is an AI enthusiast and has probably tried or succeeded at starting their own business before and now wants to do something at scale with AI and be a leader of a company. There's so many things
Interesting.
that are at that cross section.
How does that? How do you approach that? It's interesting that you're mentioning all these things because I can definitely see it. I definitely see them. But how do you approach them? You mentioned even before we started recording, you mentioned that actually a couple of people that you're hiring are from my home country, Brazil. So
Yeah.
how do you approach that situation where you are hiring people um who are going to be operating in a remote scale?
Oh, great question. Our company has always been fully remote. I think it was the beauty of starting it basically in COVID at the very beginning of, like, we didn't have another option. But also, for someone who's neurodivergent like me, it's a blessing. Like, I don't think I could ever do in person. But the other benefit and the real reason that we'll always stay remote is that it allows us to hire talent from anywhere in the world. Because, one, I believe that the US is just the start for us. If we really want to change education at scale, everyone in the world should have access to the same technologies. And I think that's what's going to create real equity between all of us. And so it's important for us to always have other perspectives outside of the US on the team. And we can only do that if we're fully remote. And so part of, why we've hired so much out of Brazil is we found in the early days our first engineers ever came from Brazil, and every single person that we've hired, whether in Brazil or out afterward, has been through word of mouth. It has been, someone's brother, someone's wife, someone's cousin that they've brought in and said, I know this other really smart person who we trust, and, they've got a reputation to uphold now, and I'm going to bring them in. And that has been the greatest way possible to build a team, is go find the other smartest person that you know and bring them in to do this with us. And then it feels like a family. You know what I mean? Like, and then it really makes everyone excited to stay on this journey and continue doing it together. So
Yeah.
I think the important part of having a remote business is just, how do you sustain that culture? And for us, it's really pouring a lot into the friendship side of things because we want it to feel like a group of friends and evangelists and activists that have come from around the world that have decided we're going to solve this problem together and we're not going to stop until we do. So a couple months ago in November, we brought our whole team to Brazil. We flew everyone from the US out there and got a big mansion on the beach and spent a week together and just sat there. We were in Natal and it was
Nice. I've been there.
beautiful.
Phenomenal.
It was,
Amazing.
oh my God, truly the most beautiful place that I've ever been. Like, that was the greatest trip of my life. It was incredible.
Go back there. Amazing.
Oh my God, it was so amazing. And just to sit around the table with truly the smartest people that I've ever met in my life and be able to brainstorm how do we build this feature that we all envision together, absolutely incredible. And I recommend this for any startup out there. Go global with your team as soon as you can because the perspectives that you'll be able to bring in are just invaluable.
Amazing. And then travel to Brazil.
Yes, exactly. And then travel to Brazil.
All right, Andrew. Awesome. Kavitta, final question that I have here for you. It's actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were.
Awesome.
So are you ready
That's
for this?
so cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the question. What are 2 things that keep you energized and motivated to grow your business outside of financial terms? Which I think you kind of answered throughout our entire conversation, but I'll let you have the mic.
I believe that this is the greatest time in the history of humanity to pick a problem, a really big problem, and go solve it. And I believe absolutely anyone can do that. And I am the first generation of women that is able to be in this position that I'm in right now. First generation, didn't come from a wealthy family. I didn't even go to a business school. I didn't even know what VC funding was when we started this company. Like, the game that we're playing was not built for people like me. But for the first time in the history of humanity, I get to play in this game. And a big part of why I do what I do is to be able to show other people like me around the world that if I can do it, you can do it too. I am not the cookie cutter Silicon Valley person who changes the world. But if I have been able to get this far with it and truly, truly see change happen across the entire nation in solving this problem that affected me for my entire life, I believe absolutely anyone out there can do exactly the same thing. You just have to care deeply enough about solving that problem and you can go do it. The resources and the universe will bend in your favor if you are willing to be bold enough to say, I'm going to be the one to solve this problem for all of us.
Yeah. That's amazing. And what you just said reminded me of something that kind of got me started on the entrepreneurial journey as well, which is just that it's possible.
Yes.
If you want it, it's possible.
Exactly.
It's like there's people that have had it way worse that have done much better. So if you want it, you can do it. So
absolutely. My favorite quote is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You're absolutely right. And you always will be. And it's simply, can you basically get out of your own way? And if you can have the entire world.
Amazing. Kavitta, thank you so much for your time. This has been such an incredible conversation. I know we went a little bit on the longer side of things here, but where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, but most importantly, a little bit more about Nectar?
Yeah, absolutely. We love hearing from folks, like I said, from around the world, whether you're interested in Nectar's technology for your class or your campus, or you want to join our team. You can find us at Nectir, that's nectir.io. That's our website. And we also have a whole community on LinkedIn. We love connecting with folks on there. So please come connect with me. Go to the Nectar company page. You can see kind of all the work that we've been doing with schools, all the research studies have been published on Nectar AI. So would love for people to find us on the website, on LinkedIn. And I also talk about my personal journey with building Nectar on my website, kavitta.com. That's kavitta.com. So that's where sort of my personal essays go.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I really, really appreciate you. And for everyone else that is watching until now, I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you, Kavitta.
Thanks, guys.